Even at this point in Total War Warhammer 3, the largest unit in the game is still probably the absolutely gargantuan Dread Saurian. Yes, here for the Lizards, another replay from the tournament this last weekend. Hadris versus Sipa. Sipa coming in with Bretonnia. Hadris got the Lizards, and yeah, the Dread Saurian, although that large size can be a detriment in a matchup with a lot of, especially armor-piercing missiles, against a faction that lacks that, like Bretonnia, that might rely on monsters or cavalry to get its damage done. The Dread Saurian can definitely shine, especially as it's being healed by a Rev Crystal and the Lord Mazdamundi here. Rev Crystal, of course, can also tank some damage, as we saw recently. Bastiladons are very good at that. And then, of course, Lord Mazdamundi can net things so that they can kill them and heal and deal his own damage as well. For the rest of Lizardmen build, we've got some Pterodon Riders already running some harassment. Yeah, looks like one on each flank there. A whole line of Skink Skirmishers kind of in the trees here. A little bit of a unorthodox deployment for Hadris. He's got one infantry, the Star Chamber Guardians, way in the back. Cohort Waddle as well. A couple of elite RORs. For Sipa's Bretonnia, he's got Fey Enchantress, Peasant Mobs, and Knights of the Realm, Royal Hippogriff Knights, one of them, and some Spearmen at Arms and Peasant Mobs. Bowmen with fire arrows, which actually do have, I think, lower AP than the regular arrows. Yeah, no poison either, I don't think, which is interesting to see. I don't know. I guess just looking to reduce the healing a little bit with that fire arrows, but I would have liked to see some poison mixed in here as well. But yeah, 4 Knights of the Realm, all in lance formation, kind of scattered around. One of them here in a bit of a defensive position in case those Pterodons decide to dive here. The other one's just kind of waiting. Trebuchets ranked up for some extra fire rate and accuracy. Will be just pounding away, and they're going to be targeting the Dread Saurian. I mean, even though they're more of an anti-infantry type, catapult type unit, Dread Saurian's still big enough that they're going to be making some contact here. It's going to be doing some damage over time, so yeah, Hadris will be on a little bit of a timer because of that. Won't be massively impactful, but the biggest issue that he's going to run into here by far, as we see a little apotheosis there, just heal through some of that damage. Sipa is that his main kind of elite anti-large component here. Not even explicitly anti-large, but just not very good at killing single entities. Royal Hippogriffs really never have been great at killing, especially like gargantuan single entity monsters, like the Dread Saurian's a classic example. And historically, that was a little bit of an issue for Bretonnia. They haven't had the best direct tools for killing the Dread Saurian historically. Certainly massed archer fire, especially if you have some armor debuffs, can do it. Here, the Fae runs in for a little distraction, gets netted before she can retreat, ends up having a regrowth herself, which means the regrowth's not available with these hippos. They do have a little bit of an Earthblood as well. You can see the net hits these Knights of the Realm. Yes, Knights of the Realm right now trying to help out on this single entity fight. Really should just come in and crush these Skink Skirmishers. It would be pretty easy to remove, what, like 1,600 value, just sweep all 4 of them off the field pretty quickly. And it looks like some of the Knights of the Realm are closing, do just that, but they actually don't. This one here misses the charge order, kind of getting recharged there by the Dread Saurian. In the back, also a rock drop that I missed from the Pterodon Riders. Wrecks 1 field trebuchet before archers are able to respond because they're kind of so spread out here, right? And that also pulls the archers away from concentrating with their other archer bros here to focus fire on the Dread Saurian in the front line, right? So it's a nice play by Hadris to kind of keep things screened here. Sipa and Hadris did have a disconnect, I should say. I'm not going to show it, even though Sipa did send me the replay. He was doing a little bit better on this one. Hadris had made a couple of mistakes. But yeah, so far here, Hadris playing it pretty well. Sipa, yeah, you can see here, especially with Bastiladon being immune to flanking, considering how much more expensive the Royal Hippogriff Knights are as a unit, they're just not really doing anything. Grail Knights these days tend to be much better for explicitly anti-large, armor-piercing. Especially in a surround, they seem to perform much better against certain monster types than Royal Hippogriff Knights do. Like here, the Royal Hippogriff Knights not even necessarily in a full surround to get in close. Not that it would matter, again, against the Bastiladon, but it's a Dread Saurian coming through. Swing and a miss there for the phase. Comet drop, not that there was a lot of great use for it here. But with the Dread Saurian moving in, the Hippogriffs are pushed back. And you can see that the Knights of the Realm eventually do start to get through and take down those skink skirmishers. But Cohort of Quaddle are going to switch over to attack them as well. And yeah, Knights of the Realm do get netted there as well, so they can't continue overrunning into the next few units. Which means, you know, rather than abandon their brethren, the other Knight of the Realm is just going to stay here and try and fight. It's 2,000 value almost with Knights versus the Cohort of Quaddle. You'd think they'd be able to win, but the single entities for the Lizardmen show up pretty quickly. And yeah, I honestly think the Knights probably should have just stayed committed there, because they came in and took a bunch of damage in this engagement. They had like Spearmen and other stuff following up. Monsters were following up. Might as well just stay mobile and try and take out as many of these skink skirmishes as they can. Eventually they do just do that anyway, but they kind of took a lot of damage in the process first. Didn't do a ton in return. Did some to the Cohort of Quaddle there, but might have been able to finish off a few more of these skinks as they just stayed on it. But seemingly very minor mistakes right now. Pretty close game still. Hadris has a decent lead on damage value, but certainly nothing that's insurmountable for Bretonnia. Ooh, see another big overcast net going off here. Yeah, Hadris using that very aggressively. And against cavalry factions like Bretonnia or Kislev, if you're facing off against powerful cavalry units with strong charge, net honestly is an incredibly important spell to have. Recently witnessed a game, well, I say recently, it was a few weeks ago, but Radar Rohan was trying to theorycraft. The Kislev matchup was having particular issues with winged lancers, and basically just developed a net strategy to basically like net the winged lancers before they get their charge bonus, right? Because their charge bonus is insane with that glorious charge effect. Anyway, talking about a different game that's not in front of us right now. In front of us, you can see both players kind of reorganizing here, sort of reforming lines, getting set once more. I will say the loss of the Knights of the Realm is pretty painful here in terms of sort of cavalry, anti-large, mobile units. I mean, there's some anti-large infantry here that's not going to be particularly impactful, especially as they get terror routed in the late game. But the Royal Hippogriff Knights maybe can do some work here, but again, they're just struggle so much against single entities. And honestly, like, the only unit really against the Lizardmen that I would probably take them against to counter is Temple Guard. There are those Temple Guards still hidden in the woods over there. Still Star Chamber Guardians, just hard chilling right now. But let's fast forward a little bit through this mid-game as the Lizardmen make an advance here. They're kind of using this tower to good effect as well to block some of the shots of the trebuchets. If you get in close on line of sight, you can see at least potentially blocking the shots from hitting the Dreadsaurian. But oof, yeah, some kind of ruination of cities there, probably in the back line, just wrecking some more of that infantry for Bretonnia. But Sipa, during this time, is actually winning a little bit on value as the trebuchets just kind of hit various targets here. Keep in mind, healing-wise, even though both factions have healing, the Lizardmen are probably going to be doing a lot more because they're healing these large HP pool monsters with percentage-based healing. So I'd imagine just if you take the raw HP number, it'd be a lot more for the Lizardmen. But anyway, yeah, you can see here the Hippogriffs like wanting to threaten almost, but again, as I was saying before, the only thing you really take them to counter is, in my mind, they're best against like halberd infantry and trying to like just absolutely blast them with burst damage. And they can be good in other situations as well, but against monsters, even against Lizardmen, I would think just regular Grail Knights are probably going to be better in most situations. I don't know. Maybe you do need the Hippos for some specific things that I'm not thinking about here, but I would say Grails are probably a safer bet in general, but yeah, right now the Archers try to stay firm, stay shooting, but you can see the monsters for Hadris just not really taking much, so they're going to continue pressing on, as will we through fast forward here, as the the skink skirmishers are going to just bypass all this infantry and other nonsense and kind of try and get a flanking position here to take out these trebuchets. Trebuchets are just about out of ammunition. They have been pounding away at the Star Chamber Guardians pretty much this whole time. Some more healing as well on the Hippogriff Knights, going to get them back up to their healing cap. Sipa standing firm, continuing with his archers to just fire at whatever targets he can. Eventually, the Hippogriff Knights do start to drop down, even against like these Croc scores. I mean, they're going to do decently well, certainly. But it's not like it's going to be a super effective trade. Not like they're winning decisively, right? So, value-wise, fighting elites versus elites is fine, but then you look at all this extra value that's moving in with these heavy lizards. The Yeah, the big monster is just too much. Sipa gonna throw in the towel there, and with his Hippogriff Knights routing, and yeah, just classic problem for Bretonnia. It's not necessarily a new one. This was pretty much the case in most of Warhammer 3, that you kind of had to prepare for a Dreadsaurian specifically, and then sometimes you get killed by other builds, but the Trebuchet is actually probably the brightest spot in this build, honestly, even though the one probably doesn't pay for itself. The other two, even with the chevrons, are able to get some really nice value, and then, yeah, the peasants and the cavalry don't really do what they need to, obviously. The Fae also has a little bit of a hard time staying in combat against certain targets to kind of do an AoE drain here, right, with her Mists of the Lady. Surprising value on the Court of Waddle, too. They were just kind of punching up the whole time, while a lot of the attention was paid to the Dreadsaurian, which technically doesn't quite pay for itself, but, I mean, tactically certainly does. The Rev Crystal also getting some nice healing out, for sure. So, interesting one. Definitely an interesting one. Like I said, an old problem for Bretonnia, not necessarily a new one, but certainly some of the changes do help. Like Grail Knights now being proper armor piercing and anti-large, right? And especially in land battles with caps format, you can take 3 Grail Knights. So, like against Lizardmen, something like, yeah, triple Grail Knight, honestly. Right, with the unit caps, I'm pretty sure I can. Yeah, something like that, honestly, with, you know, you could definitely take the Fae. Paladins are also a little bit risky. They can just die to RNG horribly against the Dreadsaurian because of its massive weapon strength. So there you don't have the biggest HP pools in the world, but it does give you, like, an extra single entity, potentially, to try and fight, especially if you're taking the Fae. Might not hurt to have 2, or alternately, Lewin's debuff is nice for killing the Dreadsaurian, just everything about it. The armor and melee defense, you know, both of which are applicable for different targets in your army as you're trying to debuff and kill him. And obviously, Lewin's also pretty tanky and decent in and of himself, with Beaky, you know, giving him lots of terror, regeneration, everything else. So it's definitely some things to think about in this matchup. But yeah, I might go, honestly, something like this. Maybe. Yeah, start with something like that and then kind of go from there. It's a little bit janky, but you could probably make something like this work, right? Maybe throw in a few spearmen and have enough to maybe take a couple of knights here. Have to get a little bit more value somewhere, but yeah, I don't know. You guys will have to let me know what you think down in the comments below. It definitely seems like this is another matchup that's potentially tough for Bretonnia. I need a caster in this, definitely, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me to see kind of how this matchup changes somewhat, but in many ways doesn't change at all. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.